Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for listening and welcome back to another episode of the Business Owners Freedom Formula Show, where we chat with inspiring entrepreneurs and dig into their highs, lows, and everything in between of their business building journey and learn about how they've been able to achieve ultimate freedom. In today's episode number 12, we have a fantastic interview lined up with Stephen Woessner. Stephen is the founder and CEO of Predictive ROI, a digital marketing agency, and the host of Onward Nation, a top-rated daily podcast for learning how today's top business owners think, act, and achieve. Onward Nation is listened to in 108 countries around the world. Since the advent of commercial internet, Stephen has collected tens of thousands of data points that have given him the ability to identify what he calls the 8 money-draining mistakes and the 8 money-making opportunities. Darren Hardy, then publisher of Success Magazine, interviewed Stephen to discuss how business owners can identify and fix the mistakes. Stephen has owned 5 businesses, is the author of 3 books, and his digital marketing insights have been featured in Forbes.com, Entrepreneur.com, The Washington Post, and Inc. magazine. So that is Stephen Woessner from Predictive ROI. Thank you so much for being here, Stephen. How's it going?
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you very much for the invitation, first of all, Paul. I mean, it's a pleasure to be here with you, and things are great. I mean, just, you know, it's Friday when we're recording this. It's the end of a really awesome week, and we're 2 days closer to Monday, which is, in all sincerity, my favorite day of the week. So, you know, I mean, what could be wrong with that?
That there is nothing wrong with that. And I think that's a great point to really just get started. A lot of people dread Mondays when their business is kind of running them into the ground. And I love Mondays because it's the start of something new and it's exciting to get back into it. I mean, I do work on the weekends here and there, but why do you love Mondays and why should everybody else love Mondays?
Well, you know, and I get it. It's kind of a personal thing. So it's rare to actually find somebody who loves Monday. So I'm glad that you do. But I like it because I tend to take Saturdays for sort of like a mental health day, right? Where it's just sort of like, as Stephen Covey said in his brilliant work, you know, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, kind of, you know, sharpening the saw, right? Habit number 7. And that might be like yard work, and that might be, you know, errands and, you know, that kind of stuff. And then by Sunday, I'm starting to, you know, after church and whatnot, I'm really starting to kind of get itchy, right? I'm starting to kind of think about everything that's going on or everything that's going to be going on that next week. So I'm starting to do kind of my planning. And as I, you know, work through the planning and think about that, I get more and more excited about the week ahead. So I can't help it. And by the time Monday is here, it's 4:00 in the morning. I wake up and I am chomping at the bit. I've had times where I've woken up like at 2 in the morning, 2:30, and I'm like, okay, it's go time. So let's just get after it.
You're pumped. So that makes 2 of us. I really do look forward to it. I would say my weekend routine is fairly similar to yours, actually. And by Monday morning, it's like, all right, I'm recharged. I'm ready to rock. I've planned my week out, you know, ahead of time and excited for the opportunity. So we're going to rewind now. So we know what's going on today. It's Friday. We're looking forward to Monday at time of recording. But how did you get started in the entrepreneurial world anyway? Obviously, along the way, you've had the opportunity and ability and success to build 5 businesses and write all these books and help everybody else out there. But how did you get started in the first place?
Really, I come from a long line of entrepreneurs. You know, my grandparents immigrated here from Greece and Turkey. My grandfather came here in 1920 when, you know, he had $10 in his pocket, and he was able to finish the 3rd grade. Because when he was 8 years old, his father, my great-grandfather, was murdered in Istanbul, Turkey. That's where my grandfather grew up. That was at a time when it was not awesome to be a Greek male in Turkey. There was a lot of ethnic cleansing, publicly accepted ethnic cleansing. And so my grandfather, you know, dropped out of school in the 3rd grade to take care of his mom and his 2 younger siblings. And he did it with a smile on his face. And so he's the one who taught me the early lessons of grit, persistence, tenacity. He came here with $10 in his pocket, wound up in Canton, Ohio, because that's where a lot of the other Greeks were too. And 6 years after coming to this country, not having a LinkedIn network, not being able to do a Kickstarter campaign.
He didn't have Facebook.
Right. It wasn't sending out content, you know, marketing strategy kind of stuff, you know, no YouTube channel. 6 years later, by washing lettuce and cutting vegetables and dishes on the night shift at a restaurant in Canton, Ohio. He owned his own restaurant 6 years later. And wow. that was a couple years before the Great Depression. He successfully ran his business through the Great Depression, gave away more soup than he ever sold. And his grand business strategy was, you take care of your customers and they will take care of you. And he had a very successful 42-year career in the restaurant business. My aunts and uncles got into the business. So did my mom. And so I just kind of grew up in the family food service businesses, right? Mm-hmm. And then I went off to the service, the Air Force, after high school, because I needed a path to college. And also I wanted to serve. And I was able to do that. And what I didn't realize and didn't expect is that working in nuclear missile silos for 4 years, as I did, in the plains of South Dakota, the prairies of South Dakota, I didn't realize that was going to spark my entrepreneurial DNA. Like, teach me systems, teach me how to troubleshoot, how to problem solve, and how to do that really in high pressure situations. I mean, each day was 100% pure adrenaline. And being able to do that quickly was like, wow, like I kind of get this. And then that sort of continued back into entrepreneurship. And so it's been a wonderful ride. I still use all of those lessons from family values, things I learned from my grandparents to my aunts and uncles to my mom, all the way through, my military experience and all of the other people I've had the pleasure of working with along this path, because, I've had some amazing, incredible, awesome mentors, people who have loved me enough and to give me the hug and the push that I needed at the right time. So it's been a real honor to be on this journey with so many awesome people.
Wow, that is an incredible journey. I mean, really just how it even got started with your grandfather. And you said something that I wrote down that I preach this to anybody that owns a business that'll listen. Take care of your customers and they'll take care of you. That's how your grandfather's business was built. And what I tell everybody, especially in this day and age, now that we have Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, all the social media, everything's connected. Your business is really just a commodity at this point. And the only way you're going to stand out is by taking care of your customers so they don't go somewhere else, because they have more options than ever. So how have you been able to use that, that mentality through the 5 businesses that you've built, and how have you seen success? And then obviously you also mentioned systems, putting systems in place to allow that customer experience to kind of run on autopilot or with other people implementing it.
Yeah, I think the way that maybe we've done that successfully is by spending time. And what I mean by that is, golly, there's just so much garbage today about, internet business and, scaling and this and that and getting people into a funnel. And not that that's bad, but I mean, there's just so much hyperbole about that today that I think we lose sight of. At the end of the day, you need to be able to sit down across the table or across the desk from Paul and be able to say, what's going on, and actually add value into that conversation. So we travel quite a bit. We spend time with our customers, our clients who are spread across the country, and we really get involved in their business and we problem solve. And that's why we're different. And not only are we bringing, distinction and differentiated services to play, but, there's pieces of what we do that are commoditized, as you mentioned that. You can find lots of people to edit together audio, video, that kind of stuff. The way we package it together, I think, is somewhat unique and distinctive. But I think what's really important, to your point, is how we deliver that. That we're willing to get up at 3:30 in the morning and drive someplace because that's what a customer needs. Or we're willing to adjust our billing cycles because a customer might be in a pinch with cash flow because, maybe they just lost a client. And we do that kind of stuff, right? Well, I mean, just because a client can't pay their bill, well, that's not our fault. But you know what? When we do that, client says, man, I love you forever.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't get much more awesome than that. So I guess the point is that we're looking for ways that we can be kind and compassionate, that we can be good people, that we can subscribe to the value that my grandfather taught me. And we've been honored to build a great business, Predictive ROI, as a result.
That's awesome. I totally agree with everything you said, building that value, building that relationship so that they do love you forever, and really putting yourself in their shoes. If I was in that situation, how would I want so-and-so? How would I want Steven to treat me and, understand my business, and what kind of value would I want to get out of that? And that's, I think, forgotten in a lot of ways, just like you said, with internet business and online this and all that, and get rich quick scheme, and you don't have to do anything. Gosh. And put your business, just hit play when you wake up in the morning and go, sit at the beach for 12 hours. All that stuff is great, but it does take, it's like your grandfather, it took him 6 years, which in the grand scheme of things is like overnight, whereas people are trying to preach you can do this in 30 days and then, go live in the Greek islands for the rest of your life.
But so, that is such a good point though, Paul. Seriously, because I think that there is so much hyperbole, and quite frankly, there's so much crap that is out there. You've been a successful business owner. You know what it takes to get up early, to stay late, to be an operator, to execute, to take care of people, what that is like. You know what the, selling a business and that strategic transaction is like. You know what that's like, right? The grind of doing it every single day. So if you were to offer us something, a course on that, packaging up your intellectual, expertise, your knowledge, okay, that's got a lot of credibility because you've done it. Right. But there is so much crap that somebody goes through Barnes & Noble, finds a book and says, you know what, I'm going to study this for 4 weeks. I'm going to lift the knowledge out of this. You know what, then I'm going to run some Facebook campaigns, dump that into a ClickFunnels, campaign, pull that into Infusionsoft, run a webinar, and now I'm going to make 6 figures. I can't stand that stuff. It's such garbage. It's like you have no basis of experience at all. You're like conning people out of their money. It's ridiculous.
Yes. And there's a quote that I've heard more than once, that in today, 2017, it's easier than ever to start a business, and it's harder than ever to actually run and grow a business. Because like you said, you get online, you get an email address, you get a CRM system, and you get a website, and all of a sudden you're an entrepreneur. Whereas you didn't actually take the time and the grit and the persistence and the patience and the pivoting and the strategy to actually build an actual business of value that you're providing to your customers.
Exactly.
So with that being said, you're really involved with your clients, which is awesome. I love it. I'm totally the same way. What kind of successes are you seeing with your clients, all around the country in the different industries that you're working in? And, where do you see some really pivotal scaling points with them?
Well, okay. So some recent successes, which are just like really awesome. So one of our clients, his name is Mitch Steven, and he runs a very successful real estate company in the state of Texas. And throughout his real estate career, he's purchased over 1,000 houses within the San Antonio market. And then people did ask him, hey, could you teach me how to do that? Completely different scenario than what I was just kind of, complaining about before, right? Because here's a guy who has done this 1,000 times. He has very deep experience. The oil well goes deep because of what he's been able to do. And so getting that, invitation from others was like, sure, I suppose I could. And now he's built an education business on top of his very successful real estate business. And then about a year or so ago, he asked, hey, could you build me a podcast? My team, Predictive ROI. And so, we talked about that with his team and how that might be able to drive return on investment into his business. And we did. And let's see, the show has been live now for about 5-6 months. I think, if I'm getting the timing quite right. I might be a little bit off there, so forgive me. But let's call it 6 months for the ease of conversation. And he's generated about $100,000 in revenue so far. And wow. It continues to go up and up and up. And so fantastic. He's a great example of producing great content on a consistent basis with a monetization strategy that is wrapped around the entire thing. And it's not about selling ads or anything like that. It is about great content with great guests and building an amazing community who wants your stuff, and then, being able to sell it. So about $100,000 so far. And then just recently, Dave Mamano, who is the host of the Avanti Entrepreneur podcast that my team also produces, Dave was looking for new revenue streams. And and he listened to episode 460 of Onward Nation that I produced. And it was a really deep solo cast where I shared the recipe from Linda Hollander, who's like one of today's foremost experts on how to get a top-tier sponsorship for all of the properties within your business. Like if you have a website, that's a property. A podcast is a property. YouTube channel is a property. You know, if you do live events, that's a property. And selling that family of properties, not just your podcast, to a company, to a top-tier company. So anyway, Dave heard that episode 460 and thought, oh my gosh, I could totally do that. So he took the recipe, put it into a sponsorship proposal, just like Linda recommends. And then he got in touch with a company called Paychex, you know, the payroll provider or processor, sold a $30,000 sponsorship for the Avanti Entrepreneur Group, his company.
Wow.
And Paul, it's not about downloads. It's not about YouTube views or subscribers or any of those kind of metrics that freak people out the most. Oh, my show is new. And it was about relationships that Dave serves the same people that Paychex wants to serve. And so that was a really happy marriage, if you will, $30,000. So those are just a couple of the successes, but it's been awesome.
That's awesome. And with your first guy, the realtor, I get that question from a lot of people of, obviously we help them put systems and processes in place so the business doesn't need the owner to kind of survive and thrive and they can be the leader and visionary. And then they'll ask, well, what happens when the business doesn't need me anymore? And I said, well, then you could teach other people in your niche, in your industry, how to do it. And it's like light bulb goes off. You know, if you're in the landscaping business and you figured it out, most landscaping businesses probably haven't, then you can go teach other landscaping businesses how to thrive without the owner. So I think that's really a good think beyond your business and think bigger picture of how else can I serve more people? How else can I help other people? You know, not just within my little business that I'm running, but outside of that business. And then with the power of the internet, you can help anybody around the world. So that's really exciting.
That's an interesting example, right? So let's look at Joe Polish, who I really admire the work that he has done with the Genius Network. I think it is so top notch, and the community that he has built is excellent, right? And Joe, in Arizona, I want to say it was Phoenix. I could be wrong on that. Maybe it's Tucson, Scottsdale. I don't know. It's Arizona. Anyway, he started his career in doing like carpet cleaning, and became so good at it that other carpet cleaners were asking him, just like you said, you know, it's like, how do you do that? I mean, not only like operationally, but marketing and finance and like, how is it that you're running such a great company? Like, oh, okay. And so then he started sharing that, right? And I don't want to say all of a sudden, because overnight success over the period of like 15 years, he's transitioned from teaching people how to run a real kick butt operation in that industry to now being the guy in Genius Network. And now he's sharing the stage with, you know, Sir Richard Branson and Tony Robbins and so many wonderful people. And so it wasn't overnight, but he was able to take that and leverage it into this. It's like, holy bananas. Like, that's awesome.
Totally awesome. I totally agree. And there's always more opportunity. I think a lot of times business owners, we get stuck in our little bubble of, you know, just what's going on here locally or within the team. But then when you start really seeing the possibility, like you said, it doesn't happen overnight though. And the key is, if you are hitting the wall, don't just throw in the towel, because there are no overnight successes. No. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Those are myths, maybe 1 in a million, but other than that, you're going to have to actually do the work and provide value. So with that being said, you got all this good stuff going on, obviously helping a lot of people. What is the normal day in the life of Stephen Woessner these days? If there is a normal day.
Well, right. So day in the life is, you know, one of our values here at Predictive ROI that we share with our team and so forth is, there's 4 of them, but the number 2 is life is not static. And so, you know, it'd be wonderful if it was like every day at 9 I did this, and every day at, you know, 11:15 I did that. But the reality is that, you know, I'm leading along with my teammates a business that is pretty dynamic. It is not static. And so a client needs something, or a teammate needs something, or you know, I need to travel someplace. You know, next week I'll be in Milwaukee. Earlier this week I was in Milwaukee, I mean, it's just that kind of stuff, right? So I'm generally up at 4 because I'm excited to get the day going. I have about 30 to 45 minutes of meditation and prayer. By 5 o'clock, I'm normally sitting in my seat, and I'm getting ready for probably a 12 to 16 hour day. And I might be traveling, I might be at home, whatever, here in La Crosse, Wisconsin. But it's going to be a long day filled with amazing opportunities to build a business, help clients, meet with prospective customers, interview awesome people like you were a guest on Onward Nation, which was a blast. So my day is pretty dynamic, right? Life is not static. There are curveballs all the time, and I love that. I love the variety of all of that. It is very similar to being back in the service, being in the Air Force and going to 2 or 3 missile silos in a day and having no idea what to expect once we got into the silo.
That is, yeah, I've never been in that situation, but I've been in the business owner situation. I totally agree. And I think the key for our listeners is, that can be your normal as long as you have, kind of systems and processes in place to make sure it all runs smoothly. You don't feel like you're putting fires out all day. Obviously, you're very proactive, getting up at 4, getting your day started, having things planned out and mapped out, and then having enough time to, if things come up last minute, hey, a teammate needs this. Oh man, a client just had a big win or a big issue come up. You want to be able to build that in your schedule to have the time to react to those instead of, just trying to put fires out all day and you never get the opportunity to actually work, on your business. So how are you able to obviously, manage all that to continue growing your business, continue serving your people with nothing static, within the business itself?
Well, you're right. It is a challenge, right? And so I love, some of the, great works like Gino Wickman in his book Traction, and we're implementing that process, the best that we can within Predictive. I'm a student of Michael Gerber's. I love the E-Myth. And so we do have processes and systems. The work that we do for clients is very systematized as far as, the podcast and the content creation, the lead gen, the sales gen, and all of that. We have very strategic systems in place to do that. We've got great recipes for scope of work and all of that. With that said, I don't do it myself, right? I've got a leadership team in Eric Jensen and Catherine Bartlett. So the 3 of us are the leaders here in Predictive ROI. There is no way that I could be doing this myself. Absolutely no way. I have an incredible leadership team who takes a lot of heat off of me so that I can do stuff like this and I can, do Onward Nation interviews. And then we have a fantastic production team. And we're also scaling. We're hiring. We're adding more people. We're doubling the size of the business in the next, 6 months. By the end of the year, we'll have twice as many. And then by, in 2018, if our predictions, come true, we'll be twice the size again. Awesome. And so, so all of that is wonderful. I think we have a good strategy in place, but holy bananas, I do not do it myself.
And that's a good thing you bring up. A lot of business owners are really afraid to delegate. It's their baby. They built it. They don't want to give up any power. What do you say to those people that are trying to hold on everything so tight and they're not just letting go and delegating, so then they have the time, like you said, to then grow your business and then double it and then double it again? Because if you're holding on to everything, that's impossible because your business is just going to be, the ceiling's going to be hit when you run out of time in the day.
Yeah, I think you just said it very well. The only thing that I'll add to that is, so you really have to decide what it is that you want. If you truly want to build a bigger business, as do I, then I have to be able to delegate and elevate, as Gino Wickman says in Traction. If you want to run a small business and you're fine with that, then stop complaining, and that's what you've decided for yourself. And there's nothing the matter with that. There is nothing the matter with that. So if that's what you want, okay, then great, fantastic. But then realize you can't have this and that. If you truly want to build a bigger business and you're going to whine and complain about that you want to control everything, then you need to get over yourself, because that's an ego problem. You can't run a big business and do everything yourself. You just can't. It is impossible. Nature doesn't work that way. The universe doesn't work that way. So if you want to elevate, you need to delegate or be happy in running a great small business. But but most people, where the pain and suffering comes in is it's a 1 to 2 person operation. The dreams and aspirations are to have a 500 person organization. They can't figure out how to get there. And then they get frustrated and actually upset and not realizing that it's not the business's fault. It's in here that they have to get right first. And then the world can change.
Awesome. I could not have said any of that better myself. So really good insights for any business owner out there. And in your intro, we kind of hit on something that I definitely wanted to kind of dig into is the 8 money draining mistakes and the 8 money making opportunities. Obviously, we don't have to go into all 16 of them, but out of those, give us, 1 or 2 for each category, 1 or 2 money draining mistakes that you see happen, over and over, as well as the money making opportunities that you see in almost every business.
Okay. So the first one, money draining mistake number 1, is the lack of baselines in what I call SMART predictives. And SMART is an acronym that we've, or we've heard it kind of different variations over the years, but it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time sensitive. So adding a structure to the goals, not like, I want to run a $100 million business someday. Okay. that's not specific. I mean, it's specific, it's measurable. Is it attainable? I don't know. If you're doing, $10,000 a year, probably not. So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, like why do you want to own a $100 million business? And time sensitive, by when? Okay. But then it's been my experience, it doesn't matter if we're talking about somebody who's been running a business for a couple of years, or maybe just getting into business, or maybe they're the leader within a business that's been around for 80 years. I find that whether I'm in a large conference room or, one-on-one with a business owner, they don't know by how much things ought to increase. So if a business owner doesn't know by how much their website traffic needs to go up because they don't understand the connection to revenue, if they don't understand by how much conversion rate between, their website traffic and email opt-ins needs to go up, that's, a missing metric. That's a problem. If they don't understand what the current baseline is for converting email opt-ins into proposal requests or into actual leads, that's a problem. Or leads and then into proposals for their sales team, and then conversions of proposals into accepted, engagements or purchase orders, and then the lifetime value of a customer. If they don't understand those metrics, but they know that they need to increase revenue, but not by how much, that's a problem. And I'm telling you, it's not just the 2-year-old business person, right? Or they've run a business for 2 years. I've had those conversations with people who have been leading companies that have been around for 8 decades, and they don't know the answer to that. So aimlessly wandering through the wilderness is money draining mistake number 1, and most people don't know those answers. So that's the first one. Yes.
That is, and just real quickly, I use the saying, you can't manage what you can't measure, relating to all the KPIs you just mentioned. What's your quote to close ratio? What do you need at the top to get to the bottom? And then your customer lifetime value. If you don't know what each customer is worth, how are we going to figure out how many customers you need? And then if we don't know how many customers you need, how do we know how many leads we got to get in order to get to those customers? And it's one of those things that theoretically it's simple, but sometimes it does take a little bit of work, because if you're not tracking all your numbers, you will have to do a little bit of work to figure out if you do want to make those goals that you are setting. So really awesome stuff there. And then kind of following that up right into the number 1 money-making opportunity for any business owner out there.
I think the number 1 opportunity on the money-making side is creating anticipation and adding value into your community, into your list. And that's money-making opportunity number 5. And here's what I mean by that. Is that, again, because of sort of the internet culture, online entrepreneurs, whatever, we think that, all of a sudden business owners are acting like that 18-year-old guy with the red Solo cup at a party and walks up to every good-looking girl in the joint and tries to get to third base, right, in the first 5 minutes. typically not going to work out well for that guy, right?
Most likely not.
Right. So then why all of a sudden do we think that somebody goes to your Facebook ad campaign, they opt in, they download your thing, whatever, they move into an Infusionsoft campaign, and then all of a sudden we can sell them a whatever? It's stupid. And it's like, yeah, you might convert 1 or 2% of that list, but you haven't built a long-term business. So my point is that, realizing that it's a long-term play, that you create great content on a consistent basis. Yesterday, I recorded episode 500 of Onward Nation, and I feel like I'm just getting started. And in creating outstanding content that's delivered consistently with high value, and then coming in and asking after you've created anticipation, right? It's like give, then ask, is, my friend Gary Vee likes to say, right?
Yeah.
And we talked about that a lot during episode 42 of Onward Nation. And, it's like, and so he and I are in the same canoe. It's like, what in the heck? Stop asking when you don't have permission to do that, right? And so I see people make that mistake time and time again, no matter what industry. So if you want a great book, if your listeners want a great book that is still just as relevant today as it was when it was published in October of 2013, like a textbook on how to do this well, it would be Gary's book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. It is exceptional. It is on my shelf. It's one of the best books, one of the best business books ever written. It is absolutely the best social media book that's ever been written.
Totally agree. And I think what you said, no matter what industry, and I work with people and I talk to people all the time about the same thing, like put yourself in the potential customer's shoes. Would you give somebody any dollar amount when you never heard from them and all of a sudden they want your email address and they want this, that, and the other? It's like, if you wouldn't do that, why do you think it's okay to do it to other people, no matter what you're selling? If you're a plumber or if you're a landscaper or if you're running an online business, you need to provide consistent value. Build that know, like, and trust factor before even thinking about asking them, for an email address or, a sale. And it's, I guess it's just, obviously it takes time. Like you said, you've done episode 500 and you got into it, with the long-term game plan of I'm going to build the value content, because then when I do want to sell a book or I do want to ask them for the sale, it's pretty much a done deal because you've actually built value, you've built the business instead of just running ads. Hey, sign up for my thing, give me money. And, that's not going to last very long.
Right. So it's like, so one of the ways that we're adding big value to our guests. So you'll be receiving one of these in September because you've been a great guest on Onward Nation. So, we're taking, this is a huge investment on our part, but, it's a great give, but then there's also going to be an ask. And that is, we're creating this really amazing package. So I've got a book coming out in September 14th to be exact, called Profitable Podcasting. And so we're creating this amazing package that we're sending out to every one of our guests who has been on the show. And with a wonderful note and gift and all that, it's like, Onward Nation cannot be possible without you, Paul. I mean, that's a reality, right? I mean, you were an amazing guest on the show. You can't have a great show if you don't have great guests. I mean, sure, I could yak, just myself, but who wants to listen to that? But so you need to have great, wonderful, awesome guests like you. So I need to give you this book because without you, this book would not be possible. And then within that gift, it would really mean a lot to me if you would write a review on Amazon.
Exactly.
Okay. So if a nice chunk of our guests will take 5 minutes to write a review on Amazon, it'll be a best-selling book, and then many, many more people will benefit from the content because the reviews will drive the positioning within Amazon. I mean, that's not hard to do. It takes time and it's expensive, but it's not like rocket science. It's be good to people like Paul who have been good to you already.
Yeah, it's simple to do, but hard to execute for a lot of people that are just thinking about, and a quote that I like to use is serve before sell. And a lot of people like to sell and then not even try and serve.
Amen.
So we are on the same page with everything. We definitely get along well and really look forward to that book coming out in September. We'll definitely link all the stuff up in the show notes on our website. With that being said, what, other than the book and other than doubling your team and then doubling it again by 2018, what are the future plans for you, Predictive ROI, and everything else you got going on?
Well, I mean, They're pretty ambitious. And so right now we're working through our 3-year targets, as well as our 10-year target. And I've kind of, and so the reason why I won't share numbers about the 10-year target is because we're still debating that within our team, because there's a big range, right? And I tend to be a little bit more ambitious than most. And so we're just kind of settling on that. But I will say that over the course of between now and, the next several years, we will see a doubling and then a tripling in the size of predictive ROI, as well as both revenue and the number of employees. And we're building a real business. This isn't like we're hiring, VAs in, the Philippines. And there's nothing the matter with that. I'm not being condescending. Please don't understand or misunderstand. But we're building a significant business here in the U.S. with FTEs, and it's really awesome, because that's the best way, in my opinion, to deliver value for clients. So I suspect that within the next couple of years, you'll also see a series of events branded as Onward Nation, that my predictive ROI team will be kind of pulling the levers and pushing the buttons on, as a way to take this education piece further to even more people. We're already in 111 countries with Onward Nation. We've built a subscriber list of 22,000 email subscribers. I think that we will see, our goal is to get that to 100,000 subscribers by mid-September, and we're well on our way to doing that. And so I really truly believe that even though what we've accomplished so far has been awesome, I really do believe that we are just getting started.
That is exciting. I can't wait to see what unfolds between the book, the live events, and like you said, building an actual business with employees, full-time employees, because someday this business, just like your generations within your family, someone else is going to take it over, you're going to sell it. And when you have an actual business, whether it's 5 years from now or 25 years from now, it can transition on to the next great leader of the business, which is exciting, instead of just being kind of a flash in the pan. So,
well, it's interesting you mentioned that too, because succession planning is something we take very, very seriously. So Eric Jensen, who I mentioned on my leadership team, is already a co-owner with me in Predictive ROI. Catherine will be a co-owner with me and Eric in Predictive ROI in 2 years. It's already part of her 5-year career path. And every one of our team members has a 5-year career path, so that it's mapped out. They're giving their time to me and our clients. My return to them, I should be able to map out where they're going to be in 5 years, right? And working with them, whatever it is that they want to achieve. So right. Succession planning is something deeply personal to me.
That is awesome. Well done from what you've done and what you have planned. Super excited for you to continue to follow Onward Nation and what Stephen's got in store. So, as everybody else out there knows, and you know as well, all good things do come to an end, because after all, we are all about freedom on the show. So we don't want to take up too much more of your time or our listeners' time. But before we sign off, it is time for our rapid recommendations for all things related to systems, automation, and freedom. So we've got 6 topics here. We're going to give you one at a time. You're going to give our listeners something to go check out or inspire them when this show is over. So the first thing, we've mentioned a couple, but what is one book that you would recommend our listeners check out?
Wow. Okay. So I'm reading like 6 at the same time. I think probably the most thought-provoking book that I'm reading currently is The Truth About Your Future by Rick Edelman, who's the founder of Edelman Financial Services and a recent guest at Onward Nation. Mind-blowing as far as how exponential technologies will change your future, but then also your investment portfolio too. It's an exceptional read.
Awesome. So with everything here, we will definitely link that up on the show notes on our website, paulmaskill.com. What about one quote that you like to live by?
Fear and procrastination are the enemies of success, which I learned from one of my mentors and also my cousin, Dean Bacopoulos. And it's mounted on my wall, like right over there, which you can't see. But anyway, but fear and procrastination are the enemies of success.
That is 100% true. What about one tool that you couldn't live without within your business or life?
Well, this will sound kind of dumb, but like this thing.
Right there, an iPhone. That is true. What would we do without an iPhone? A lot of things we take for granted now. I mean, even things like Google or, stuff like that we just take for granted that you really couldn't live without. What about one podcast that you like to listen to?
Let's see. Gosh, there's here again so many. I think one of my faves right now, I'm kind of biased because we produce so many too at Predictive ROI, but is so one of my trusted mentors in both life and professionally. His name is Drew McClellan, and he hosts the agency, or he runs the Agency Management Institute, but he hosts the Build a Better Agency podcast, and it's exceptional. Obviously, very industry specific, for agency owners like me. But it is off the charts amazing.
Awesome. We'll definitely link that up as well. What about one community that you like to hang out, whether it's in person or online, that's kind of where your people hang out?
Can I say Disney World?
Yeah, there you go. Disney World. Why do you like Disney World so much?
Well, I always have. When I was a kid, there was just something about, what they do from a community perspective, how they create rabid fans, and how they create this sense of community, which is driven by just this brilliant marketing machine. So the first time I ever went, I was 16 when my mom took me, and it was fantastic. It was, and I fell in love with it then, being there. And my wife and I, we've been married now in a week and a half, 24 years. We went there for our honeymoon. I have probably been to Magic Kingdom now a couple hundred times. And I love it. My daughter is 10. She's been there 9 times. She's been there the last 4 years on her actual birthday in January. And so it's amazing. And we tend to spend 2 weeks there every January. So I love it.
I could tell. Wow. Very impressive. If you haven't been there, they just from a customer experience standpoint, like you said, providing value and consistency, doing things, better, really simple things, but better than what anybody else would do. Yeah. And then lastly, one parting piece of advice for a business owner out there who is stuck, burned out, or just trying to get over the hump.
Yeah. Realize that the key to success isn't in my words. It's not in Paul's words. It's here in here, because every single day we as entrepreneurs or people deal with the imposter syndrome. That little voice that sits, or whispers in your ear, and you hear that voice say, well, who do you think you are, Paul, to do something so amazing? And realizing that has nothing to do with your circumstances and has everything to do with you. If you're not where you want to be in your business right now, it's because you're probably paying too close attention to the voice in your ear. So cast the imposter syndrome and kick fear to the curb where it belongs, and be that amazing, awesome, wonderful, incredible, and beautiful person that God intended you to be. You have an abundance of God-given talent. Your responsibility is to actually get out and apply it. You have everything you possibly need. Don't blame a lack of a degree, or go to the Khan Academy and get whatever education gap you need to get filled for free. So don't use that as an excuse. Get out there and do it, and realize it is the imposter syndrome that's holding you back. It's not somebody else. So get out and do it. If my grandfather can come to this country in 1920 without the benefit of an education and no money, and doing it with a 3rd grade education, and he can do and build a business over 42 years, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it.
Awesome. Good, inspiring stuff right there. And that's totally what I really like is if you see anybody and they're doing it, if they can do it, so can you. You just got to put in the work, persistence, and consistency. So thank you so much, Stephen Woessner, for taking time out of your day to impart some of your knowledge, wisdom, and enthusiasm to our community. Hopefully this helps everyone out there get one step closer to achieving ultimate freedom in their business and in life. Before we sign off, where can our listeners go to keep in touch with you?
OnwardNation.com. Sure would appreciate anybody's, listening, feedback. Let us know how we can get better. I love it. Whether you like it or don't like it, please let me know. That helps us get better. And then my core business is PredictiveROI.com.
Awesome. So we'll definitely link both of those websites up, onwardnation.com. Great podcast, great guest. Like he said, consistent daily value-packed stuff. And then Predictive ROI, if you are interested in what Steven's doing to get the word out there about your business, build kind of that predictive stream of revenue so you can get a return on investment, is really exciting stuff. So we'll link all that up in the show notes at our website, paulmaskill.com. For everyone else out there, stay tuned for next week's episode as we dive into another fantastic interview with Scott Barlow from Happen to Your Career. And like Steven said, if you like what you're hearing or if you have any feedback, we always appreciate a review, subscribe, share with your friends. Even if you don't like it, leave a review and tell us how we can get better. That's the only way anything has ever improved. So that's all I've got. Don't forget, you can join our free Facebook group at bizfreedomformula.com, where we can continue the conversation with like-minded entrepreneurs. We're putting the plans in place to work less, make more, while increasing the value of their business and achieving ultimate freedom. So, Steven, thank you again. Can't say thanks enough for taking the time out of your day to give us all this great value.
Well, sincerely, Paul, thank you for the invitation. It's very kind of you. I appreciate you being on my show as an awesome guest. I appreciate the invitation to be here with you. I'm grateful for that, and just really had a lot of fun. So I hope that your listeners get some value out of the conversation that you and I had. But it was a blast being here with you.
Totally agree. I had a ton of fun. I learned some good stuff as well, inspiring everything that we talked about. Really appreciate it. So until next time, keep rocking, trust the process, and talk to you guys soon.